I was 16 years old when something happened that still makes my skin crawl whenever I think about it. My parents had gone out of town for the weekend, leaving me alone in our small 2-story house near the edge of town. It wasn't the first time I'd been home alone, and honestly, I used to enjoy the quiet. I would stay up late, play games, and eat whatever I wanted. But that particular Friday night, everything felt different, eerily quiet, almost too still. It was around 11:45 p.m. when I first heard the sound. It wasn't loud, just a soft, dragging noise coming from the gravel driveway. I thought maybe it was the wind, or a raccoon knocking over the garbage bin. I tried to ignore it, but something about the rhythm of the sound didn't match the usual nighttime noises. I muted my TV and listened carefully. The dragging sound stopped, followed by what I could only describe as a whisper, low, uneven, and almost like someone was talking to themselves. I froze. My heart started pounding, and I felt that instinctive chill of being watched. I slowly peeked through the curtains of the living room window, and that's when I saw him. A man, half naked, wearing only a torn pair of pants, was kneeling in the middle of our driveway. His hands were clasped together like he was praying, but his head was jerking unnaturally, tilting up and down as he muttered something under his breath. For a second, I couldn't move. I thought maybe he was hurt or drunk or mentally unstable. But then I saw another figure standing just behind him. A tall man in a black coat, wearing what looked like a priest's collar. The priest had his hands raised toward the sky and was whispering words I couldn't make out. I could only hear fragments, something that sounded like Latin or chanting. My first instinct was to grab my phone and call 911. But the moment I stepped back, the man in the driveway suddenly turned his head toward my window. His face, God, I still remember it. His eyes were wide open, white, like rolled back into his head, and his mouth was twisted into a smile that didn't belong to a human being. He stood up in one jerky motion and pointed directly at my window. The priest stopped chanting and began walking slowly toward the house. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I ducked down and crawled across the floor, trying to stay out of sight. I reached the hallway and grabbed the phone, but my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I dialed 911 and whispered that there were 2 men outside my house, one naked and one dressed like a priest. The operator told me to lock the doors and stay quiet. I ran to the back door, locked it, then checked the front door. The moment I reached it, I heard a heavy knock. 3 slow, deliberate hits. "Let us in," a voice said softly. "We only wish to pray with you." I didn't respond. I just backed away, trying not to make a sound. Then, through the thin curtain, I saw a shadow move past the window. Then another. They were circling the house. I could hear them mumbling, chanting, whispering things I couldn't understand. My stomach turned when I realized they were praying. For me. After what felt like hours, I heard sirens in the distance. The voices stopped. I peeked through the window again and saw nothing but the empty driveway. When the police arrived, they searched around but found no one. Just strange footprints, bare human prints, and next to them, paper ones that looked like boots. The officer said it was probably a prank or someone high on something. But here's the part that still haunts me. The next morning, I found small clumps of ash on my porch, like someone had burned a paper there. When I looked closer, I realized that the ash was sitting in the shape of two hands pressed together, like someone had been praying. Even now, years later, every time I hear whispering in the dark or see movement outside my window, I feel that same chill. Because deep down, I know those men weren't just strangers. They came for something, and I don't think they ever really left. It had been 2 years since that awful night with the praying men. I was still living in the same house, though my parents had added motion lights and security cameras after what happened. For a while, life felt almost normal again. I was older, busier with school, and my sister had just left for college across the state. The first week after she left, the house felt emptier than ever, but I told myself I could handle it. I'd already faced worse. One Friday evening, I was home alone again. Rain poured nonstop, tapping against the windows in a steady rhythm that was oddly comforting. I made some noodles, put on a movie, and tried to relax. Around midnight, the power flickered once, then went out completely. Only the hum of the wind filled the dark rooms. I groaned, grabbed my flashlight, and went to the fuse box in the hallway. Nothing seemed wrong. Everything was in place. I figured it was a local outage and headed back toward my room. That's when I heard it, a knock at the front door. 3 short, hesitant taps. For a moment, I thought it might be the neighbors checking if we'd lost power too. But then, I remembered that my nearest neighbor lived a good half-mile away. The knocking came again, slower this time, but harder. I hesitated, walking toward the door with the flashlight beam trembling slightly in my hand. "Who is it?" I called out. No answer, only rain. I peeked through the peephole and froze. Standing on the porch was my sister. Her hair was drenched, plastered across her face, and she looked exhausted. Relief rushed through me, followed immediately by confusion. "Emily," I whispered, opening the door a few inches. "What are you doing here? You didn't say you were coming home." She didn't respond right away. She just looked at me, blinking slowly, as if trying to remember who I was. Her lips trembled when she finally spoke. "Can I come in? It's so cold." Something in her voice made me uneasy. It was flat, emotionless. Still, it was my sister. I stepped aside and she walked in silently, dripping water on the floor. I closed the door, locking it behind her, and turned to say something, but she was already halfway down the hall, moving like she knew exactly where everything was. I followed her to the living room. She sat on the couch, staring at the dark television screen. The flashlight beam caught her reflection. It was wrong somehow. Her skin looked too pale, and her eyes, they didn't seem to focus. "Emily, are you okay? Did something happen at school?" I asked. She turned her head toward me slowly and smiled. "You don't look the same," she said softly. "What do you mean?" Her smile widened. "You were taller." A shiver ran down my spine. The last time I'd seen Emily, we'd hugged goodbye at the bus station. She'd laughed and promised to visit at Thanksgiving. Now she was here, acting like a stranger. "I'm going to call Mom," I said, pulling out my phone. Her head snapped toward me. "No." The word came out sharp, almost like a growl. "Don't call anyone. I just want to stay here. With you." Every instinct told me something was wrong. I stepped back slowly and pretended to check the phone signal. Then I whispered, "I'll be right back," and slipped toward the kitchen. I dialed Mom's number. It rang twice before she answered. "Hey, honey. Everything okay?" "Mom," I whispered, "is Emily home? Did she leave campus?" There was a pause on the line. "What? Of course she's at school. Why?" My stomach dropped. "Because she's here," I said quietly. "She's sitting in the living room." For a moment, there was only silence. Then Mom said, "Lock yourself in your room, right now. I'm calling the police." My hands went numb. I looked toward the living room, but the couch was empty. A wet footprint marked the carpet, leading down the hallway toward my bedroom. I ran to the nearest door, the bathroom, and locked myself inside. I could hear soft footsteps outside, slow and deliberate. Then her voice. "Why are you hiding from me?" She knocked gently on the bathroom door. "You let me in. Remember?" I held my breath, gripping the sink so tightly my knuckles turned white. I heard her whisper again, but this time her voice changed, lower, deeper, like two people speaking at once. "You should have stayed with us that night." The power suddenly came back on. Light flooded under the bathroom door. I listened for movement, but the house was silent. After a full minute, I forced myself to open the door. The hallway was empty. The footprints ended halfway down the carpet. The front door stood wide open, rain blowing in from outside. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They searched every room, every corner of the property. Nothing. Mom and Dad came home the next morning. We checked the security footage from the night before, expecting to see Emily arrive on the porch. But the cameras showed no one. The front door had simply opened on its own. That night I got a call from my sister at college. She sounded tired but cheerful. "Hey, just checking in. You good at home?" I didn't tell her what happened. I just said yes. But sometimes, when it rains late at night, I still hear those 3 faint knocks on the door. And every time, I wonder if I made a terrible mistake letting her in. When I was 18, my parents decided to move closer to the city, but I chose to stay behind with my dad for a while. He owned a big piece of land up north, mostly forest and open fields, and he didn't want to sell it just yet. Winters there were brutal, with snow piling up so high that sometimes the road to town disappeared completely. I didn't mind the isolation. There was something peaceful about it until that winter. It was early January, the coldest night of the year. The air was so sharp it felt like glass against your skin. My dad had gone into town for supplies, leaving me alone for the night. I was sitting near the wood stove, scrolling through my phone, when I heard a faint scraping noise at the window. At first, I thought it was a tree branch swaying in the wind. But when I looked outside, I realized there were no trees close enough to reach the house. I brushed it off, put my earbuds in, and went back to reading. Then I heard it again, this time louder. like nails dragging across the glass. I turned off the music and stared at the window. Nothing, only darkness and the faint reflection of my own face. I told myself to relax. The wind does weird things out here. But then came a knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks on the front door. My first thought was that Dad might have come back early. I grabbed a flashlight and walked to the door, calling out, "Dad, you forget your keys again?" No answer. I turned the lock and opened it just a crack. The freezing air hit me instantly, carrying tiny flakes of snow inside. The porch light flickered weakly, and that's when I saw the footprints. Bare footprints in the snow, leading up to the porch and stopping right in front of me. But there was no one there. The flashlight beam swept across the yard, landing on the tree line about 30 feet away. And that's where I saw him, a man standing motionless, facing the house. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, but no hat, no gloves. His head tilted slightly as if he was studying me. I called out again, "Hey, you okay?" No movement, no sound. He just stood there, staring. The snow swirled between us, thick and white, but he didn't flinch. I shut the door, locked it, and backed away slowly. My hands were trembling. I went around the house, checking every window. The motion lights outside kept flickering, but I couldn't see him anymore. I tried to convince myself it was just some traveler who got lost, maybe drunk or hypothermic. Still, I grabbed my dad's shotgun from the wall, just in case. I loaded it and sat by the window, waiting for my dad to come back. About 20 minutes later, I saw movement again, closer this time. The man was standing by the barn, half hidden in the shadows. He was still staring at the house. I wanted to yell, but something in my gut told me not to. It felt like he wanted me to make noise, to open the door again. Then, slowly, he started walking toward the house. Each step crunched in the snow, deliberate and heavy. I raised the shotgun, heart pounding. He reached the porch, and for a second, he disappeared under the overhang. I couldn't see him anymore. The next sound I heard was a soft tapping on the window behind me. I spun around. There he was, his face pressed against the glass. Pale, lips blue from the cold, eyes wide open. He grinned when he saw the gun, like he found it funny. Then he whispered something I couldn't hear through the window. I didn't think. I just fired. The blast shattered the window, spraying glass and snow everywhere. I dropped to the floor, shaking. When I looked back up, the man was gone. I ran outside, ignoring the cold, biting into my skin. There were footprints leading away from the house, bare feet bleeding into the snow. But they stopped halfway across the yard. Just stopped, as if he'd vanished into thin air. Dad came home about an hour later and found me sitting by the door, still holding the shotgun. He checked outside but found nothing except the footprints and broken glass. He told me it was probably some vagrant, maybe high or delusional, who wandered off and froze somewhere in the woods. But 2 days later, when the sheriff came by, he told us something strange. A man's body had been found several miles north. No shoes, wearing a torn black coat. The odd part was, according to the coroner, he'd been dead for over a week. I didn't say anything, but I knew what I saw that night. The way he moved, the way he smiled. He wasn't looking for help. He was looking for a way in. Even now, every winter when snow hits the windows just right, I swear I hear that slow, scraping sound again. Like he's still out there, waiting